Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, Tesla has been taking a beating in the markets recently, and I want to take today's live to talk about whether this is a signal or noise, whether it's a sell event or it's a buy the dip event. So, let's talk about that. And to do so, we're going to retrace our steps and see why is Tesla down, and then we're going to talk about whether or not these reasons are fundamental to the company or perhaps short-lived, inshallah. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. So, not financial advice. Be sure to do your own due diligence before making any investing decisions. So, the first piece of bad news that caused the price of Tesla stock to drop recently was the news that they had the lowest shipment from Giga Shanghai since December of 2022. So that doesn't look good, but you have to keep in mind that the auto business is a rather seasonal business. So if you look at the context, the Chinese Lunar Year, during which the country shuts down for nearly 2 weeks, fell in February of this year. And historically, this has led to depressed economic activity and sales in the country. And the drop in shipments does not just affect Tesla. So if you look at BYD, which I consider Tesla's most uh, most important competitor, it saw its February sales tumble 37%. So whereas Tesla sales were dropped closer to 20%, BYD sales dropped closer to 40%. So it's important to keep these things in context and not just go off of the headlines. The second piece of bad news came today with environmental, wherein environmentalists um, harmed basically the greenest country on earth, perhaps, and arsonists basically caused the power in the Berlin Giga factory to be shut off, and it's expected to remain shut off for the next week. And this is going to cost the company hundreds of millions of euros, it's estimated. Well, okay, this is bad, but it's number one, temporary. Number two, these market capitalization of Tesla lost, close to $100 billion in the last 2 days. So yes, there was a temporary loss of hundreds of millions of euros, but that doesn't justify a drop of close to $100 billion in a couple of days. So, in light of that, I think it's clear that this is something that we can consider as noise. It's not signal for Tesla stock. So, what is a signal? Let's talk about that. By the way, if you'd like to follow our portfolios and see what we're investing in, become a PIF member. The signal comes from the latest report from Tesla, and we can see that the deliveries for Tesla increased close to 40% last year, despite the economic slowdown that we experienced. We can see that in 2024, the growth is expected to be 20%, which, yes, it is slowing, but it is still outpacing, even on a percentage basis, its closest rivals, even though it is starting from a larger base. So, yes, again, here we need to slowing growth, but we need to take it in context. Not only that, but Tesla is becoming more efficient. So, whereas other car companies cannot produce an electric vehicle with at a profit if their life depended on it, and in fact, you see some car companies like Ford and GM actually retreating from electric vehicles, going back to hybrids and internal combustion engine cars because making electric vehicles is just not profitable for them. Tesla is becoming better and better at making EVs, and the car of the future is an EV. So Tesla is setting itself up to what I think will be a huge catalyst for the company, and it's going to make analysts' imaginations run wild, and that is the mass market electric vehicle. Some people are saying it may cost as low as $25,000. And this is scheduled to come out sometime in 2025, although, Tesla has had delays before. Uh, that said, when it does come out, I do think this will be basically the iPhone of vehicles. Everyone is going to want to have one by default. You may find, the every now and then someone opts for a different vehicle, but this will be a standard vehicle that becomes basically extremely widespread, perhaps not as widespread as the iPhone, but very close. I think with years it will be. And not only will the car of the future be electric, but it will also be autonomous. And to have autonomy, you have to have a model, and to train a model, you have to have data. And the data advantage is snowballing out of control in Tesla's favor. No company has any shot at coming close to the amount of data that Tesla has from real world miles driven, not from a simulation, but from the real world, from the actual driving of people. It's using these miles to train its self-driving algorithm, and this is an advantage that is going to make all the difference when it comes to AI and self-driving. And I don't think this is really appreciated that much by most analysts on Wall Street. Not only this, but Tesla charging is now, they actually agreed with Ford and GM, or rather, Ford and GM basically uh, stopped trying to compete with Tesla on providing charging stations for their customers and basically opted to use Tesla's infrastructure. And so Tesla's charging stations are also going to become the standard. So if you have an EV that is not a Tesla, you'll likely end up charging it at a Tesla charging station. And you can imagine what this halo effect will do for Tesla, not only in terms of positioning it as the leader in EVs, but also when these customers come into Tesla charging stations, I'm sure that Tesla will be actively poaching a lot of those customers through different deals. Not to mention the billions of dollars that Tesla stands to make from other cars actually charging in its stations. Now, something that is perhaps flying under the radars of many investors is the energy storage business for Tesla. And this is a very important business, and not only because it's growing very rapidly and it has the potential to become larger in terms of revenue than its vehicle business. So, for example, in 2023, it grew 125%. But also, the energy and storage business is actually more profitable than the automotive business. So, you have the most profitable line of business growing the fastest, which is very encouraging for any company. We also have to mention Optimus, which I think is a product that could eventually have unlimited demand. Basically, the world will buy as many as Tesla can produce. And this is because Optimus is meant to be a general purpose robot that may make human manual labor eventually over time obsolete. So you'll end up telling it tasks to do, like you tell ChatGPT, and it can do that. If it's a manual task, it can carry it out. And you saw the advancement of AI, how quickly this is happening. And I think the same level of advancement, the same speed of advancement will basically happen with robots. After all, the intelligence of these robots is going to be a function of AI. And if you remember when Optimus was first introduced, how it looked really funky and its movements were quite awkward and really laughable. Now it's folding laundry, right? So in a few months, they have it folding laundry. What are they going to have it doing in 12 months? And when you think about it, the self driving that Tesla has been working on for years, which essentially boils down to enabling the car to process its surroundings and translate that processing of surroundings to physical movements in the vehicle, that translates directly to a general purpose robot meant to do manual labor. So, in a sense, a lot of the work that is required for a general purpose robot, a lot of the work has been already done when they worked on solving the self-driving issue for vehicles. And no other company on earth has progressed as much as Tesla in this field. So I really think that Tesla will very likely have a Nvidia moment where when ChatGPT came out, Nvidia had its moment, and its stock price did a 4 or 5x since then, perhaps even more, and counting. Every time you look at that stock, the number is going up. I think Tesla is going to find itself in a similar position where you have the confluence of all these developments coming to fruition at a similar time. And it's going to pay off tremendously for Tesla holders that were able to weather times like these and actually took advantage of them by buying. I was a buyer yesterday in our PIF growth portfolio, and I will be a buyer today, inshallah. And just to put the cherry on top here, when insiders sell, that's often just noise. When insiders buy, they buy for one reason, and that's because they think that the company is going somewhere. Insiders don't buy in a company that is going nowhere or is declining. And Musk was recently reported to have been seeking a 25% stake in Tesla to have more control over it. That's not because he thinks Tesla is stuck or going nowhere or doesn't have a bright future. Quite the opposite. The reason why an insider like Musk would want to increase his stake in the company is because he thinks the future is very bright for this company. It's on the cusp of some really important developments, and he wants to have control of that. So this is the signal of all signals. So with that, I conclude that Tesla stock is, in fact, a great buy at these prices if you're willing to have patience and wait it out and invest money that you don't need in the near term. Obviously, with investing, you should always only invest money that you don't need in the near term and that you're willing to lose. So this is why Tesla is the biggest position in our growth portfolio, and I will continue to add to it aggressively, I might add, in times like these. Not financial advice, do your own due diligence. So let's go to questions very quick. Assalamu alaikum, akhi Rakan. Well, wa yakum, inshallah. Thank you for that. Salam, brother Rashad. Yes, it's my pleasure, and inshallah 2024 will be a year of barakah for everyone. So Apple shares. So Apple is one of those companies where I kind of feel like it hasn't been that innovative. It really perfected the products that it makes, but its innovation has been lacking. So perhaps it's reached the plateau prior to the decline. It's yet to be seen. I think a lot will ride for Apple on what their artificial intelligence play actually ends up being. This is unclear. I know they've teased something to be announced soon, but a lot is riding on that. They make products very well, so that they've perfected. But in terms of innovation and new products, new categories, I mean, you saw Apple. I mean, speaking of Tesla and electric vehicles, they had a electric vehicle program that they shut down recently. They just couldn't get it going, despite you know hundreds of millions of dollars spent. So we'll see. I think it's not surprising in light of their performance and also lack of really new sort of must-have products being released. And I know they had the goggles, but they're kind of expensive. They look bulky. I'm not sure how much mass appeal they have. But we'll see what they do with artificial intelligence. Um, so, staying on the topic of electric vehicles with regards to Rivian and Lucid, um, honestly, the only way an investment in any one of these companies ends up working out is if they get acquired somehow. If, like, Apple buys Rivian, for example, that's one way where an investment would play out. Otherwise, I think both of these companies are going bankrupt, to be honest. So, how much risk do you want to take? As it relates to very quickly Bitcoin mining stocks, I think that uh, they may be previewing the next move of Bitcoin as opposed to the. So I think on strength in Bitcoin, we saw some weakness in Bitcoin mining stocks, and I think that may be a function of equity traders anticipating a fall in Bitcoin, and perhaps after a fall in Bitcoin, we see some strength in Bitcoin miners. So they're predicting the very next step for Bitcoin. So something to keep in mind. I also think that Bitcoin miners are riskier than Bitcoin. So on the risk, but they obviously hold the prospects of perhaps greater returns. So just make sure you understand that dynamic before you do any investing. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you found it beneficial. Until next time, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all. And also leave a like, please. It means a lot. Thanks. Salam.